Good morning, everyone. Is it still morning? Let me check yeah, it is. We got another 54 minutes or so. I'm Congressman Joe Crowley. I represent the 14th Congressional District. Thanks, Kathy. Appreciate the clapping. Thank you. I represent the 14th Congressional District in parts of Queens and parts of the Bronx up in New York City. I know you can't tell by my accent, so I had to make that clear to everyone. And I am the chair of the Democratic Caucus here in the House of Representatives, and very pleased that you're all able to join us today for this celebration, for this birthday celebration of Medicare and of Medicaid. Medicare and Medicaid have improved our country at every level, every fundamental level of our country. Without Medicaid and Medicare, where would we be? What kind of a nation would we be without these more than safety nets? These are life-preserving nets. They are incredibly important to who we are as a people. So this is a birthday celebration of both, but it's also a celebration of who we are as a nation and as America. But still, 52 years later, these crucial and critical programs are under the attack of our president. Although he says one thing, his actions speak louder than words. It's under attack by my Republican colleagues with their health care repeal bill after repeal bill after repeal bill. Their budget, or their budgets, there are a number of them. And last but not least, the political gamesmanship that's been going on here in Washington without regard to what Social Security, what Medicare, and what Medicaid have meant to the American people. And it's unacceptable for our nation to continue that. I myself think many of the things the president has done is unforgivable, but certainly unacceptable. Democrats are fighting for Medicare and Medicaid, and we will ultimately be successful because these programs help working people here in the United States. They help the middle class. That largely goes unnoticed. They help those who need help. We'll be back next year for another birthday celebration, and the year after that for another celebration, and the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that. And it's not just because I say that as a Democratic member of Congress and we'll do whatever we can to preserve Medicare and Medicaid. The American people want to preserve Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. But Medicare and Medicaid are the bedrock of who we are as a people. And that's why it will be preserved. We have with us today three outstanding activists, three American citizens who will join us. I know we're going to be joined a little later by a number of members of Congress. But firstly, I would just want to I can't apologize because they're doing their job, but Jan Schakowsky, as well as Doris Matsui, who are the co-chairs of the senior task force here in the House Democratic Caucus, they're stuck in a markup. So they'd be making all kinds of news that they were here and not voting at their markup. So you'll forgive them. They're going to try to get here before the program ends. We also expect to hear from Rep. Lois Frankel. She's also very much involved in the issues of our senior population. But today we have Marguerite O'Connor. Marguerite taught in the Fairfax County, Virginia Public Schools system for 30 years. She was a department head in the English department at Robert E. Lee High School in Springfield, Virginia, and is a retiree from the American Federation of Teachers. She taught English as a second language for many years. And she also taught for 10 years at the Northern Virginia Community College, after which she retired from the Fairfax County school system. Marguerite, I will not mention your name, the age of those here. I'll let you decide if you want to say that. Is a widow, and she resides in Springfield. Medicare has kept her in excellent health and condition. It has paid for her colonoscopies, including the removal of a precancerous polyp, annual physicals, mammograms, her high blood pressure medications. She has seen all of the receipts. She has seen all of the receipts that have helped to sustain her without mistake, always paying her bills properly since she's been 65, which wasn't very long ago, so I'm going to point that out. She has been able to stay in her current home for 48 years in much part because of Medicare. So, Marguerite, the microphone is yours. The floor is yours.
Good morning. Congressman told you a lot about me, but I guess we can hear it again. And I retired from the Fairfax County Public Schools after 30 years of teaching. And during that time, I taught English, and then I taught English as a second language. I'm 77 years old, and I live in Springfield, Virginia, and I'm here on behalf of the ARA, Alliance for Retired Americans. I am a widow and also a retired person from the American Federation of Teachers, the AFT. And I have good things to say about Medicare. Medicare has kept me in good health, and I've been able to use it to afford many treatments. I've benefited from the program since I was 65, and in 12 years, there's never been a mistake with any payment. All the bills are paid and on time. I've used Medicare for my colonoscopies, including the removal of a precancerous polyp, annual physicals, and mammograms. Without Medicare, paying for all of these essential treatments would be next to impossible. And we are here to celebrate the anniversary of President Lyndon Johnson's creating the Medicare and Medicaid programs. In the 52 years since the programs were signed into law, they have helped millions of others just like me. There is constant political noise from those who want to see Medicare and Medicaid cut. This week, the Senate is voting on legislation to cut Medicare and decimate Medicaid. Now, more than ever, is the time to strengthen and expand Medicare and Medicaid. The guaranteed benefits that Medicare offers to millions of seniors is in constant danger of privatization schemes and cuts from unsympathetic representatives in Washington. The House Republican budget, introduced this month, would turn it into a voucher program, but the Alliance for Retired American members and our allies will fight this attack on our earned retirement benefits. I have been able to stay in my current home for 48 years, in large part thanks to Medicare. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marguerite. We've been joined by my good friend from the great state of Minnesota, from the 8th District, a man who has done double duty here in the House. He's in his second life here in the House of Representatives, Rick Nolan. Rick?
Thank you, Chairman Crawley, and thanks to the Senior Federation and for all of you being here today. I like to think of good living and good politics is all about gratitude. And we've got a lot to be grateful for. And paying it forward is how you express your gratitude. I like to remind everybody, and many of you, if not most of you here in this room, know that in our grandfather's time, the life expectancy in this country was about 47. And today, in Minnesota, I'm proud to say, it's actually over 80. Wow. One of the great accomplishments in human history, and Medicare and Medicaid were right at the heart of it all. And don't forget Social Security while we're at it. Lifted more people out of poverty than anything in the history, maybe the world. And the way we show our gratitude is by paying it forward, not by rolling back a century of progress, which seems to be what some people in this capital of ours are bound and determined to do it. We cannot let them do it. We must preserve the Affordable Care Act. We must preserve Medicare. We must preserve Medicaid and Social Security while we're at it. And I'm proud to join you and thank you for expressing your gratitude the way you have. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. We'll now hear from Nicole Jorwick. Nicole is the Director of Rights Policy at the ARC of the United States. Prior to joining the ARC policy team, Nicole served as Senior Policy Advisor and Manager of the Employment First Initiative in Illinois. Prior to that appointment, Nicole served as the CEO President of the Institute of Public Policy for People with Disabilities. Nicole is also an accomplished special education attorney and an advocate for students with disabilities with a focus on transition-age youth. Nicole is also a sibling. Her brother, Chris, is 26 and has autism. So Nicole, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Nicole Jorwick, and I am the Director of Rights Policy for the ARC of the United States. The ARC promotes and protects the human rights of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and actively supports their full inclusion and participation in the community throughout their lifetimes, something that would be impossible without Medicaid. I'm here today, though, as a sister. My brother Chris will be, actually, that bio is a little wrong, he'll be 28 years old tomorrow and has autism. He's the reason that I do the work that I do, and as a Medicaid recipient, he is one of the millions of individuals at risk if the proposals in the House and Senate healthcare reform bills become law. We know the numbers, between 22 million and 32 million people losing coverage, at least 15 million losing Medicaid coverage, over $770 billion in cuts over a decade to Medicaid. But those numbers represent people. They represent Chris. They represent the 43 heroes from the national organization ADAPT that were arrested last month after staging a die-in in Senator McConnell's office. That's right, a die-in, because Medicaid is literally life and death for people with disabilities. I was lucky enough to be there in solidarity with the organization last month, and as I watched people who I respect and admire being pulled from the wheelchairs that they use, literally putting their bodies on the line for people like Chris, I wept. The current proposals quite simply devalue groups of human beings. Gutting the Medicaid program, a program that over 10 million people with disabilities and families like mine rely on, shows that the drafters of this legislation don't see the value of investing in the lives of the poor, the aging population, pregnant women, people with disabilities, including my Chris. Medicaid is so much more than a health program. It funds long-term supports and services that allow people with disabilities to live their full lives in the community, work, and be contributing members of their communities of choice. Medicaid funded the communication device that gave my nonverbal brother a voice so that he can advocate for himself. Medicaid funds the day support services that allow my mom, a college professor, and my dad, a small business owner, to keep their jobs. Families like mine started the ARC over 65 years ago to get people out of institutions and into their communities. And now those services, the institutions, may be the only thing left because those services are mandatory while home and community-based services are optional and will therefore be the first thing to get cut when these devastating cuts go down to the state level. We cannot let this happen. We must save Medicaid. People's lives literally depend on it. Chris is dead. The proposal to decimate the Medicaid program to provide tax cuts to corporations and the wealthy is morally reprehensible. As an advocate and as Chris's sister, I will do everything in my power to stop the current healthcare bills and protect the integrity of the Medicaid program that we are here celebrating today. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. We have been joined now by another member of Congress and a number of members of Congress, but one who was scheduled to be here to speak, Lois Frankel. She's the chair of the Democratic Working Women's Group. Lois? From the great state of Florida.
Thank you. Hello. Hello. Well, let's say happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
So I like the cake. I think I like the cake because it is a bipartisan, non-discriminatory cake. I am told it is chocolate and vanilla. It has some yellow on it and a lot of colors of the rainbow. And that's really like the programs we're celebrating today, because Medicare and Medicaid has no party label on it, and it's helping and been helping Americans for 52 years. So anybody been on Medicare or Medicaid for 52 years? Well, not yet. Keep going, though. So I'm Lois Frankel. I am the chair of the Democratic Working Women's Group, but don't let the name fool you, because we love the men, and men participate, because we're here. This affects men and women. And you're going to hear in a moment from Brenda Lawrence, who is the vice chair, or as we say, the chair of the vice. She's going to have a hard time living up to that. So listen, folks, as Republicans continue their efforts to slash and burn the Affordable Care Act, Democrats offer Americans a better deal, especially the millions of men and women who rely on Medicare and Medicaid, lowering the cost of prescription drugs, protecting those in nursing homes, easing the cost of services for children and disabilities, and helping to keep women who are giving birth, to keeping them healthy and their children healthy. So I want to thank our leaders. You're doing a great job so far, Joe.
So far, thank you. Tight string.
And I think Representative Schakowsky and Matsui, they're going to be here. They are the leaders of the senior caucus, and of course, our leader Pelosi is a great leader. Now I've ingratiated myself with my leadership. I can move on. So listen, I think we know this. I know we don't remember it because you were all too tiny when these programs started, but before we had Medicare, half of American seniors had no health coverage. And imagine that today, if you could not go to your doctor or take the pill that you need. I need a couple of pills every morning, let's face it. Most people need a couple of pills. And then what about Medicaid? Paying for 62% of folks in nursing homes. Imagine if your grandma, your grandpa had no place to be and nobody to take care of them. And a lot of these folks who are in nursing homes, they've outlived their friends, they've outlived their relatives, and they have absolutely outlived their assets. So, our better deal from the Republican, this is what the Democrats are saying. We don't want you to have to choose between putting food on the table or taking a child to a checkup, and we are going to fight tooth and nail to preserve these programs that we're celebrating today. And I want to talk about a young lady from my hometown. I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida. Anybody from Florida? Hey. It's supposed to be sunny, but it's not sunny for everybody, especially if you don't have the money to take care of yourself. At 19 years old, Taylor was pregnant. She was trapped in a very abusive marriage, which she luckily escaped. She had literally no money, and she found a clinic that helped her enroll in Medicaid. And now at 21 years old now, she has a son, and she's training to be a nurse assistant. Think about what would happen to half the women in this country who are giving birth, who are now relying on Medicaid, about the morbidity, about not only to the women, more women dying, more women having complications in childbirth, more children being born at a low birth weight. Not only would that make for a less healthy society here, it would make for a much more costly medical system. So that's why we're here today. We are the Democrats, and we are saying we have a better deal, and one of those better deals is to protect these programs we celebrate today. So thank you all for joining in. Happy birthday. Are we going to sing happy birthday?
We will momentarily.
All right. Thank you all.
Momentarily. Lois, I'll be happy to let you lead the choir, so that's okay. We'll come back to, Lois mentioned a better deal. Better deal, better jobs, better wages, better future. A big part of that better future is the preservation of Medicare and Social Security. We know Paul Ryan wants to voucherize Medicare, wants to privatize Medicare. We know they want to slash Medicaid. They want to destroy the Medicaid system as we know it today. But the leader on the message of a better deal, better jobs, better wages, better future is our leader, Nancy Pelosi.
Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind words. I accept that compliment on behalf of our entire caucus, who has worked very hard to come together around a strong message in support of America's working families. Especially want to acknowledge Sherry Bustos, David Cicilline, and Hakeem Jeffries. But our chair of the caucus having the meetings where members could listen and tell us what they're thinking. Now we're taking it on the road. It's going to be road tested in people's districts. And part of that better future piece of it involves just what we're talking about here. Something so important. When Lyndon Johnson signed this bill, he spoke of initiatives Medicare and Medicaid would have transformational potential. No longer will older Americans be denied the healing power of modern medicine. No longer will illness crush and destroy the savings that they have so carefully put away over the years. No longer will young families see their own incomes and hopes eaten away simply because they are carrying out their deep and moral obligations to their parents. This was a remarkable thing, and when he signed it, he took it to Independence, Missouri, and signed it with President Truman because President Truman had been advocating for this. And actually, President Roosevelt, when part of the Social Security, they had hoped to have health care, but it took that long to the 60s to get it, and here we are with the birthday. And as our distinguished chair of the caucus has said, the Republicans, what did they say? In the 90s, they said Medicare should wither on the vine. And that their actions that they would take were to little by little undermine Medicare. Medicare is a guarantee. That is its beauty. That is what it means to people, a guarantee. So when, as the chairman said, the speaker says we're going to make it a voucher, it's no longer a guarantee. It's no longer Medicare. And that must be stopped, in addition to capping and cutting Medicaid. As Congresswoman Frankel said, it pays for almost 2/3 of the cost in nursing homes. And let me say about Congresswoman Frankel, she represents a district that is blessed with many people who understand the value of Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And she has come here as a champion, a relentless, persistent, not 1 minute go by without making the case or viewing any action we may take through that prism and how it affects our seniors. So thank you, our chair of the Women's Task Force, Ms. Frankel. And Jan Chikowski and Doris Matsui, oh my gosh, they too have been relentless in terms of creating opportunities, making venues for us to come together to see what is at stake to protect and defend Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Is she here, Jan?
They're in their markup.
Oh, they're in the markup. But the Energy and Commerce, a committee of jurisdiction, at least on the Medicaid side of this. So I just want to tell you a personal story. When I was very young, John F. Kennedy was running for president of the United States. And he came to Baltimore, and he was going to have one of these call-in television shows. This is a brand-new concept. And for some reason, one of the people was supposed to answer the phones, what didn't come or whatever it was, and they said to me, here I was, will you be one of the phone answers to take them? And we're on TV, Senator, this is the question. Every question that any of us had was about health insurance for seniors. Every single question. Fast forward, now I'm older and I'm in California. Jerry Brown is running for president of the United States, 1976, 1960, 1976. Not that far apart, although it seems like much has happened in between. We have the call-in show again. It was all automated by then. They didn't need us, just the governor taking the calls. And all of the questions were about expanding Medicare, covering healthcare, prescription drugs. And so we said, I don't know, in 16 years, are seniors the only ones who watch television when these shows come on? Or is this the major concern of health and economic security to America's families? We're still fighting the fight. As we celebrate the birthday, we understand the blessing it is, and thank all of you for your outside mobilizing as we maneuver internally. And one of the things we must do is to stop what's happening in the Senate as an assault on Medicaid, as well as undermining the solvency of Medicare. So as we say happy birthday to Medicare, let's remember how long it took to get it all, and now we have all these years of experience and the blessings that it is to your families, making America healthier, making America stronger. Happy birthday, Medicare. Happy birthday to my colleagues who are here.
So, Leader Pelosi, thank you. We still have to hear from Vets Care, and I do want to give Will Fisher an opportunity to speak, as well as members of the caucus who have joined us as well. But I know you have to go as well.
No,
So
I'm not
before
going
we, so do you stick around for a few minutes?
Yeah, for a few, I want to hear.
All right. Well, then, if we could, I'd like to call upon the vice chair of the DWWG, the Democratic Working Women's Group. You got it. Did I get it? I mean, I'm not getting too bad after all. So Brenda Lawrence from the great state of Michigan. That's how we say it in Queens, Michigan.
I am so glad to be here to celebrate a birthday, a significant time in our history where our government understood the responsibility and the compassion and the realization that we as a government have a responsibility to those who are aging and those who have other challenges to provide health care. I like to share a personal story. So I, at the age of 3, lost my mother. And my grandmother and my grandfather took me in to raise me. Now, they were 60 and 55 years old and had retired from work. My grandmother never worked, so their income was very limited. But because my mother had worked and had Social Security, there was a funding that came into our home that I didn't even know about that allowed me to have health care. Just certain things a lot of people don't reflect upon. We were not rich by any means. I had a very warm, loving home. And one of the things that people comment so much on, they say, oh, you have very nice teeth. And my grandmother, who, because I had health care through Medicaid, Medicare and Social Security, took me to the dentist on a regular basis. She said I didn't have that opportunity growing up. And she felt it was an investment in my health for me to be able to go to a dentist. And she was so proud of that. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a birthday today that we're celebrating. But like we heard, special needs, our seniors, me as a child with no fault of my own, would have been in poverty and not had the health care if it were not for those benefits. I want to give you a couple facts about women. And I represent the 14th District in Michigan. And Medicaid makes up 52% of the population by women. Now let's talk about women. Women have unique healthcare needs. And it's because our bodies are designed and we give birth to children. So maternity care, our own reproductive health needs that we have as women, family planning, long-term care services. It's not to say anything that is not factual. Women are the primary health care providers. And for those who are home caregivers, it is mostly women. And nearly half of all women have an ongoing condition. And you can put that anywhere you want to. We have an ongoing condition that requires regular monitoring, care, and medication. So as a woman sitting and having the opportunity to serve with Lois Frankel on the Women's Caucus, this is extremely personal to me and something that I stand up and fight for every day. And women, you need to understand, whether you're a caregiver for your seniors, whether you are managing your own health care, that this is extremely, extremely important. When women have health coverage before becoming pregnant, as well as in between pregnancies, they are healthier during their pregnancies, and their babies are more likely to be healthier at birth. So protecting and investing in Medicare, Medicaid, and in Social Security reduce costs of health care because they are getting the treatment that they need. So I stand here today to say happy birthday, but also to say it is a call to action to stand up and protect something that is extremely critical to our country. And I want to say that we, as Democrats, stand here wanting to tell the American people it's a new day and there's a better plan, and that we want to fight for better jobs. We want to fight for a better work environment, that we want this country to stand up to its creed of one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, not just for the rich, but for all. Thank you so much, and happy birthday.
So liberty, justice, Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid for all, right? So we're going to make an addendum to. So Kathy, you would like me to have the happy birthday and cut the cake? Is that what you? Yeah, not only, would you mind if we have just one additional guest? We have Will Fisher, who is the Director of Government. I don't like to say anything to Kathy, but yes, so that's why, Madam Leader, you have to understand. Director of Government Relations for VoteVets.org. More importantly, he's a Marine and a veteran of the Iraq War. So we thank him for being here. He has extensive knowledge of the importance of Medicare and Medicaid as it pertains to our returning heroes. So, Will, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Now, what wasn't in that bio is, as you can't tell from my accent, I grew up in the same neighborhood that Chairman Crowley did. Yes, exactly. South, very south. As it was mentioned in my introduction, my name is Will Fisher, and I'm an Iraq War veteran and a United States Marine. Now, as you all know, we got quite a healthcare debate going on right now. And I can't tell you how many times throughout this entire healthcare debate somebody's come up to me and said, well, what are y'all talking about? How is this even a veterans issue? Don't y'all all just go to the VA? Well, for some of us, yes, we do. Look, this is my VA card, for example. With this card, I'm able to have access to world-class health care. The reality is, though, is that's not the case for all veterans. In fact, for a great number of veterans, the VA is not an option. Either they're not eligible for the VA because they make too much money, they live too far away, they have no service-connected disability, etc. And as such, since the passage of the Affordable Care Act, the number of veterans who have gone in this country without insurance has dropped dramatically. The number of military family members who have gone without insurance has dropped dramatically. And one issue I want to talk about specifically today is the relationship between veterans and Medicaid. You see, right now in this country, there are over 1.75 million veterans who are enrolled in Medicaid. 15,000 veterans in West Virginia who are enrolled in Medicaid. 93,000 veterans who are enrolled in Medicaid in the Chairman Crowley's home state of New York. 40,000 veterans enrolled in Medicaid in Arizona. So this is very much a veterans issue, and very much an issue that is a life or death issue, not only for millions and millions of Americans, but also millions of veterans and military family members. Now, I've heard it said much more eloquently than I could ever say throughout this entire debate that one simply cannot support the repeal of the Affordable Care Act and again ever refer to themselves as being pro-life. Well, what is equally true is that there's no way one could ever support the repeal of the Affordable Care Act and again refer to themselves as being pro-veteran. It's categorically anti-veteran. And I just welcome the opportunity to continue standing shoulder to shoulder with all of you all, and doing everything we can to not only achieve the type of life that we want, but the type of life that we deserve. And again, I thank you so very, very much.
Thank you, Will. So, Madam Leader, thank you, Will, and all our guests. Madam Leader, if you please step up to the cake, and all our colleagues, please join around. And where's Lois Frankel? Because she desperately wants to lead us in happy birthday. Lois, come here. Lois, look, look, Lois, please.
Okay.
Please. All right?
Oh, my God, I have the
Come
worst
on.
voice in the world.
Lois Frankel has one of the finest voices you'll ever hear, folks. Pay attention, listen.
Yes.
On three. One,
Oh, she's sitting
two.
at the microphone.
Happy birthday to you.
You're doing well.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Medicare and Medicaid. Happy birthday to you and many more. Wasn't Lois absolutely, frankly, wasn't Frankel outstanding?
I'm going to join your band.
And Nancy, if you please, just take one of those knives and carefully cut the cake. Your choice of knives.
Aim it the correct way.
On a 1, and a 2, and a 3.
Oh, wait, does somebody blow this candle out?
Blow the candle out.
I'm big on candles being separated from everything.
Okay. Less germs. A 1, and a 2, and a 3. Happy birthday. Hey, don't you dare. Don't you dare. You'll get Pelosi very mad at you if you do that, so. And what I get to do is turn this over now to Lois Frankel. So she's in charge of.
If I may just say one thing, you all heard Will Fisher, wasn't he fabulous?
Yes.
I want you to know that I hear him at least twice a week on the phone, reporting in about the calls that the vets are doing. The outside mobilization that Vote Vets is doing is so important to everything that has happened. Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wonderful.
And now I'm turning over to Frankel.
Okay, here we go.
Peace.
Thank you, Joe. He's going to let me join his band. I don't know how I control myself. I had this big thing of icing. It looked so good. Okay.
The icing piece?
Well, yeah, I do maybe later. Okay, everybody. Now you can't leave till we give you the cake, right? We have just,
Icing piece.
we really, two of our great leaders who have really brought us here today, who are in the middle of what's called a markup. I'm going to let them dash in and out. Our two dashers, Jan Schakowsky and Doris Matsui, who have illustrious careers, but they are, one of their functions is to head our seniors task force, which they do a great job, even though they really haven't reached that point yet.
Not you.
Here they are. Here's Doris Matsui. Here we go.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. Jan and I are in a markup, and we have to rush back. We couldn't miss this at all, celebrating the 52nd birthday or anniversary of Medicare and Medicaid. I think more than ever, everybody understands how important it is, given what is going on in the Congress today regarding Trump care. So we need to make sure that we have care. What they're voting on is a lack of care, and we cannot allow that to happen. Medicare is so important to all of us over 65, and also Medicaid. That is such an important function of what we have today in this country. Without Medicaid, think about the long-term care that we'll be missing out on, the disabilities, and all of this. So today, we really do have to fight and ensure that we have health care for everyone. We cannot lose it. If you think about the fact that transferring care, the amount of money for care, like $800 billion, to people who don't need it, right? We all need this. We need it for our friends and our families and the people all around the country. So this is a call to action as well as a celebration. And thank you so much for being there with us. And my colleague, Jan Schakowsky, who's been absolutely wonderful. We are co-chairs of the Seniors Task Force, and we love being with all of you, and we love being together. Jan.
Thank you. I think some of you know that I was an organizer for the Illinois State Council of Senior Citizens, which morphed into the Alliance for Retired Americans. I want to thank you. I want to thank the National Committee for Social Security and Medicaid. That was before I was a senior, and now I'm really fighting because I am a senior for a long time. So here's the thing. We're here not only to celebrate Medicare and Medicaid, we're here to celebrate you, because I've been an organizer really for over 40 years. And I have never, ever seen a mobilization like I'm seeing right now. I know you have been activists for a very long time and been in these fights for a long time, but people are coming off the sidelines, off their couches to get involved in this fight. And we don't have to explain to you, because you live it, we live it, what Medicare and Medicaid have done for the last 52 years for Americans to lift people out of poverty and out of sickness and to provide the health care that they need. And at this very moment, there are these efforts to destroy these programs as we know it, to change Medicare into a voucher system, to give too little money, to let it shrink on the vine, to cut Medicaid, which is so important for seniors, for families in this country. And so we need you now more than ever. So I want to thank you, because I believe with every cell in my body that when we fight, we win. Say it with me. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, okay, let's do it. Thank you.
All right, I want to thank Jan for waking up the crowd, although I think I haven't seen anyone fall asleep yet. All right, next up, from my home state of Florida. He used to be our governor. Now he's on the correct side of the political spectrum. But he's a great guy, Mr. Charlie Crist.
Thank you, Lois. I love you. Thank you. I love Lois Frankel. I love our leader. Please give a round of applause to Nancy Pelosi, a true public servant serving you, Kate. Happy birthday. Such an important celebration and such an important couple of programs, Medicare and Medicaid. I just wanted to come by and say hello and thank you for all the hard work that you put into this, and just tell you how important it is that you're involved and engaged and as active as you are. As a Floridian, I can tell you we understand not only Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. These things are incredibly important to so many people, as you know. And we are dedicated to the proposition of making sure that they stay forever, and we continue to have birthdays year after year, generation after generation, for all Americans, regardless of what the other side of the aisle wants to do and what they're trying to do this very week, which is unbelievable. But God bless you all for being here. Thank you so much for your support, your encouragement. We're with you. We got your back. God bless America, and God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. I'm telling you, the cake's worth waiting for, everybody. Here we go. Next up, also from my home state of Florida, I call him Big Al. He is a man with one of the biggest hearts. He's a great champion for all, Mr. Al Lawson.
Thanks very much, Lois, and I'm honored to be here with this birthday celebration. You know, I was just sitting there thinking that how much this means to me when I think about what happened to my mother and having to go into the nursing home and how important it was to have health care. You know, it was a couple of weeks ago, I was with an Episcopal bishop. And so I asked him, I said, what happened to all the old people? And he said, Al, you the old people now. And I thought about it, and he was absolutely correct, you know. And so we are here with the leader, and Lois has been bossing me around ever since we was in the Senate together in Florida. And anytime she asks me to do something, I might nag a little bit, but I always go ahead and do it because I know how committed she has been to this cause and how we have to continue to fight. We have a leader that is so significant that I admired before I got here, and I still continue to admire her for her work in providing health care and protecting Medicare and Medicaid for the people in this country. All of us have pre-existing conditions. So when you see us fighting in the House and the Senate about these issues, it affects all of us. And I certainly hope as time go on that people will come to a reality. I have pre-existing conditions. And how important this is so to all our people. And I know back in Florida, when I get back, there's another birthday celebration that I've been for the last couple of years on cutting the cake. So I'm saving myself here until I have to do it in Florida. So thank you all. I commend you all so much for being here and fighting for what is so significant for all of us in this population. And happy birthday again. Thank you.
All right, thank you to Big Al. As we get you your cake, you know, we're having a birthday here, but we're not just celebrating the past because this is about a better deal for the future, and that is protecting these programs. And one of our staunchest advocate who's been fighting this, she is our most, I will say this, she's our longest serving woman Democrat in the United States Congress. I don't know how she's done it. And she's kept probably the sweetest temperament. I really like her a lot. I'm going to bring her up. Marcy Kapner. Oh, and she left me. She's gone. Tell her I take it back. She's like a magician. I don't know where she went.
She's a real champion. Oh, no, so many
That was weird. Okay. Another champion. She's a little tinier. But she's got a big voice, a big heart. She's a dynamite. You watch her. I'm not going to say what her next job's going to be. It's going to be something very big. And she, back in the state of New Mexico, she was the Secretary of Aging, where she did a great job, and she's followed it here in Congress. She is a very good friend, Michelle Lujan Grisham. I hope you're here.
Thank you. Lois and I actually were elected in the same class. This is our third congressional session. And that temperament of being very personable makes a big difference. And you're here because this is personal to you. It's personal to every member of Congress who will celebrate with you today, whether they're here providing remarks or they're fighting these issues on the floor. And for me, in addition to all of the things that you've heard, I wanted to focus a little bit on the caregiving aspects, right? Without Medicaid and Medicare, I can't be a caregiver to my mother. I'm still her primary caregiver, and she's a young 77, but she's chronically ill. And without Medicare, my parents could not have provided the care in their home for my severely disabled sister until we lost her when she was 21. And we sometimes in Congress, and certainly sometimes in our communities, fail to talk about the fact that Medicare and Medicaid, we did a great job with the veterans, is this is a family and American issue. It is a benefit that keeps families together, that keeps families whole, that provides a lifeline for caregivers to make sure that the primary acute care gets taken care of. If I had to pay for my mother's hip surgery, her rehab, her prescription drugs by myself, even with the handsome salary that I'm fortunate enough, unlike most caregivers in this country, because I'm a member of Congress, I could not provide the life-saving care that my mother needs. And without the Medicaid benefit that she waited for 8 years to receive, she could not get the personal care assistance so that I could do my job to make sure that not just my mom, but every American legitimately has access to those services. There are 40 million caregivers who, without these benefits, cannot provide the assistance to their loved ones that they want to provide. But these are the lifelines that make that difference, including the self-directed care components in Medicaid. And I just want to leave you, and you don't need any of this because you're fighting these issues every single day and making a difference, community to community, neighbor to neighbor, senior to citizen center to senior citizen center across this country. And we want you to keep doing it. We're going to keep doing it. But if we don't continue to support these programs, we can do small things that make them even more effective for future generations that the Republicans in Congress refuse to even legitimize or talk about. But the reality is, if these programs went away, the very things that we're fighting about in healthcare in general, they collapse irrespective of the draconian work that the Republicans are doing. They would fall apart without Medicare and Medicaid investments. Every rural hospital, every VA hospital, every Indian health center, every community health center, every public health institution, every single one, all of the special education and supportive services in public education, all overnight gone, and ER costs would escalate so that every hospital in the country, irrespective of whether they're rural or not, would fall apart because of the weight of not investing in the programs that have created those opportunities and those balances for every American for 52 years. So thank you for making a difference for my sister. Thank you for making a difference for my mother. Thank you for making a difference for me. And thank you for the 40 million caregivers who depend on you to fight these battles with them today. Happy birthday, and thank you very much.
Great remarks, and I want to thank Michelle for being here when I introduced her.
I love you, Frankel.
Who else is missing? Okay. We got another friend here. I actually went to law school with him, but I still have my hair. Max Richmond, the director of, look at the shirts, National Committee to Improve Social Security and Medicare. Thank you for your work and your work. All right. Next with us, she's here. She has been fighting the fight for a long time. Great lady, Susan Bonamici.
Thank you so much, Lois. I'm Suzanne Bonamici from the great state of Oregon, and I'm here to say thank you to all of you and to say happy birthday to Medicare and Medicaid. We know that 52 years ago, there was a commitment made, and it still holds true today. There is absolutely no reason in the United States of America why our seniors cannot live their lives throughout their lives with dignity. And that commitment, that plus Social Security, some people call them entitlements. Look what this sign said. I worked 40 plus years. These are earned benefits, right? They are earned benefits that people worked for throughout their life, and we should not be talking about taking them away. We should be talking about protecting them, expanding them, preserving them, and making sure that they are there for our seniors. And sometimes people say, "Oh, why do you care about programs for seniors? We should focus on children."
These programs affect families, the sandwich generation, the people who are trying to save for their kids for college, but they're taking care of their parents as well. I'm going home to Oregon next week, and I'm having an 89th birthday party for my mom. She's in an assisted living memory care, wonderful place, but she still needs a lot of care and attention. And when I hear about these programs that people are saying, well, just give everybody a voucher and let them go shop for their insurance on the free market. So I want to take the people who are proposing that to the wonderful assisted living memory care place in Portland where my mom lives and have a conversation with people there and ask them if they would like to go shopping for insurance. And I think the answer is absolutely not. These are programs that we are committed to as policymakers, and your advocacy is making a big difference. You couldn't be here at a more important time. I stood outside yesterday with a group of people who are here, people with disabilities, who are saying, kill the bill, because so many people rely on Medicaid. And that isn't just for seniors. As we know, students in schools get help through Medicaid. This is affecting families. It's affecting seniors as well. And no way are we going back. We're here for the fight. You've been here with us, National Committee and the Alliance. Thank you for all of your advocacy over the years. Please know that we stand with you in this fight, and we're going to keep fighting, and your voices really do matter. Keep telling your stories. Keep raising your voices. In the end, we will win, because this is what's right for our American families, and it's what's right for our country. So thank you again for your advocacy, and happy birthday, Medicare and Medicaid.
Thank you very much. Wanted to let you know, if you don't know, at the back of the room is a photo booth. It's not really a booth, but it's, girl, everybody turn around, this, see, girls wave. So no, you can wave. No, the girls in the back are waving, not you. You're not to be waving. They're waving to tell you that when we're done, we'd like invite everyone to go get your pictures, right? What are we going to do with the photos? I bet they're going to be on somebody's Facebook. Does everybody have Facebook? Anyway, we want to see your great faces. All right, now, waiting patiently. This is a lady who is, I say this lady is in the trenches. She's about grassroots. She has been championing these causes for a long time. Carol Shea Porter, and she's here. And she's from New Hampshire.
Thank you, and I'm so glad all of you are here. I grew up in a 3-generation family. My parents, there were 7 kids and a bunch of cousins that lived with us, and uncle from one side, my great uncle actually, and my grandmother. My grandmother had Alzheimer's, and my great uncle had a stroke, so his mind was fine, but he had physical challenges. And so I watched my parents be caregivers, and of course all of us were caregivers as well, considering how many people were in the house and the challenges that my parents faced. But Medicare was there, and Medicaid was there. And then my parents got old, and my father and mother had worked very, very hard all their lives, and they thought they were going to be okay in their retirement. I remember the day that my dad retired, age 65, and he was telling me, that if I go first, your mother's going to be fine. Well, she wasn't, because my father was sick for a whole decade. Everything that could happen to you happened to my father. But Medicare was there. And then my mother got sick, and she spent a decade with COPD and struggling to breathe and in and out of the hospital. And I think all of you know these stories because life happens to us along the way, right? We have things happen. So Medicare was there. So for me, not only was it personal watching everything that happened in my family, but it also turned me into a life of advocacy, that I worked with seniors for a long time because I was so moved by what I had observed in my own family. And then, of course, coming into Congress is the best place to advocate for all of us. And when we talk about Medicare and Medicaid, we're talking about all of us, that this is something that helps everybody in this country. Everybody's affected by this program. Everybody at some point is touched. by it. You heard my colleagues talking. So I'm grateful for these programs. I'm grateful for the people who work so hard to bring them to us, and for members of Congress and the president who signed all this. And now our responsibility is to maintain these programs. And so I thank you for showing up, and I ask you to reach out in your communities and keep reminding people that these are programs for all of us, that we all hope that we get to the point where we reach 65, or we have programs that are there for us if we are disabled or long-term illness before. This is our safety net. This is also something, as we say, these are earned benefits. And so we need to change the way we talk about these programs. We paid into this. This is not something that was given to us. This is something that all of us have invested in. So I thank you. I ask you to please keep going out there. Use that Facebook, as Lois said. Use Twitter. Use every tool that you've got to talk to people about the fact that this is all under attack right now. But we will win this battle, because we have something on our side that those against it don't, and that is that we are right. And the American people know that we are right. When we say these programs must continue and that they serve everybody, we are right. So thank you for helping us to protect this. And let's keep going, and happy birthday, Medicare and Medicaid. Thank you.
All right. I would say this. I have been in front of many groups in my career, and I will say about this group, no one has fallen asleep. This is excellent. Because what this shows is how important this subject is, right? It's a very important subject. So, as we leave, has everyone spoken who wants to speak here? Okay, enough is enough. You've been very patient. I mean, really, all these members of Congress, some who disappeared on me, I don't know. She's going to hear it from me. I will tell you that. But she is a very nice lady. I just don't know what happened to her. Max, go look for her, please. So, listen, here are your instructions. Make sure you get a piece of cake. Go get your photo. We want to get your beautiful faces on the photo wall. Obviously, you're going to spread this word. And I'm going to end with a story. Here's the thing. I'm a senior, too. When you get to be a senior, you don't remember everything that happened in your life, right? Right? I mean, that's the way it is. That's the way it goes. That's why in Congress, we have a lot of young assistants. They take notes. They have a good memory. But there is something that I have remembered for a very long time, and that's the story I'm going to end with. When I was in the state legislature, I was the chair of our Health and Human Services Committee, and part of that, and actually since then, I've done a lot of tours of nursing homes. My first visit to a nursing home, really in an official capacity, was maybe 30 years ago. For me to remember something that happened 30 years ago, trust me, it's a miracle. But here's the thing. There was, one of the staff people took me into a room. There was a lady in a wheelchair, sort of in the corner, and she was sort of bent over. She was not completely lucid. And the staffer said to me, this woman used to be a judge in New York City on a court, what they call the Supreme Court. She was way up in her 90s. They told me she had no more friends. She had no more money. She had no relatives. I remember looking at her and thinking, oh my goodness, this woman had worked her entire life in a good job, okay? And here she was, and she was there, safe, being taken care of because of Medicaid. And so I'm going to always remember that story, and I really think it is a motive, and everyone can tell probably a story like that. It is a motivating force why we have to keep the fight up. We've got to keep this fight up. So remember, There's a better deal than slashing and burning all these programs that we've worked so hard for. And we're going to fight hard to do it. Happy birthday. And it is a happy one because we still have Medicare and Social Security. Everybody enjoy it. Enjoy your benefits. All right.